What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Babbling Pastors podcast for, what month is this? May? It'll be May. It'll be May. Good deal.
Hey.
So, at this point, we don't know, because this isn't too far away from when we're recording this, but a couple months. The coronavirus, COVID-19, I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't want to give it to you through the camera here. It's still happening now, according to, and you have to tell me how your state's going, Rob. I know here in Indiana, supposedly, the stay-at-home order is supposed to end on May 1st, which I highly doubt it will. But because I know it differs by state to state. What's going on over in North Dakota, buddy?
We're actually pretty blessed and fortunate, frankly. We don't have a stay-at-home order.
Oh, cool. There you go. Well, you guys are pretty much far enough apart that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we have maybe more cows in this state than people. I'm not sure about that. Probably some exaggeration there, but not a lot.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we've had like restaurants and some business type things like that, theaters, that there are orders that they close. There isn't even an order about churches or anything like that. However, probably 90% or more of the churches in the state have chosen to react kind of in the same way as businesses might. So, so Governor Burgum is our governor. He's actually been pretty lenient on things and just kind of expecting us to be responsible human beings.
What?
So I know. Weird. But yeah, so we don't have any stay-at-home orders or anything. And on top of that, they're talking about opening things slowly back up in May. So maybe we're recording this. It's not May right now when we're recording this, but by the time these are coming out and being aired or released or whatever, we'll probably be starting to come back online as a state and whatever that all looks like.
Gotcha. Okay. So obviously we've broken these down. So we'll talk about the church thing here in a little bit. But so first episode here, guys, is really our personal takeaways. Maybe are similar to your guys' personal takeaways. For me and my family, as I've said before, apparently we were already living in quarantine self-isolation mode. Like, I did it. So, like, people have asked me, like, how has this changed for you? And I'm like, nothing's real. We don't go to the grocery store as much, and I would probably kill for a Texas Roadhouse burger or something right now. But other than that, like, I just don't eat out as much. That's literally the only thing that's changed, because I'm still going to work. So I have to wear a mask and gloves and, stupidity like that. But that's the only difference as far as work goes. And I'm still going to work. My kids were already homeschooled. So, So a funny story on that. Haley, when she found out, that the schools here are actually, like, it's a what do they call it? A restricted workload. So they're only, like, giving them a little bit of work every other day. So it's not even a full thing. So she came up to Christina and she's like, "Hey, can I have a restricted workload? Because all my, the school do it." And Christina's like, you've already had a restrict. Like, what are you talking about? You're homeschooled. It literally doesn't last hard. She can get everything done in like 5 hours. So, yeah. Sometimes sooner if she wants to, if she actually has the motivation to. And she's like, "You've already been living on go read." So we've already been doing that because we don't leave the house a lot. Kids are already homeschooled, and we basically buy groceries for 2 weeks at a time anyway. So literally, if I didn't have any news, I wouldn't know that a whole lot was going on, at least from my side of it. Well, in church, that's the one big thing that's changed for us, obviously. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, that's really the only big thing, was the not actually coming together as the body. But Anything changed for you? Because I know your kids are homeschooled too.
Yeah, we, I think probably providentially for us, but we just started homeschooling this year. And so we were just a little bit of a step ahead of that game, I suppose. But North Dakota is actually doing pretty well with that. Honestly, the schools are back up. They're just doing it online.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so some states I know have essentially canceled it for the rest of the year when this all happened. And but for us personally, we really haven't seen a ton of, it's really a lot like you, right? Like we haven't seen a ton of difference personally, other than, like you said, we can't run out to Applebee's tonight, as a family or whatever, that kind of
Date
thing.
nights have been
So
severely hindered. I'd like to let
we
that.
really are suffering,
Yeah, I can't eat at Applebee's.
right? What's the world coming to, right? No, so it really hasn't changed a lot for us. I think probably for me personally, schedule has changed quite a bit because obviously Sunday we're not meeting. So, and we can talk about that later on as well when we talk about the takeaways for the church. But that has changed my schedule and how I have to kind of operate. So it's been a disruption in that way because I'm really sort of analytical and have to have routine personally.
Yeah.
And so when that gets jacked up somehow, it can be worse instead of better. But I think one of the takeaways for me personally, and this is going to be firsthand evidence for those of you who watch or listen to this, and you talk about the church being hypocritical. It's going to be firsthand evidence that as a pastor, this is what I do for a living, and I'm just as terrible as every other human being on the planet. So for me personally, dependence on other stuff, I think that's a thing. Up in where we live, we're not only dealing with the COVID-19 stuff, but we're also dealing with really terrible oil prices.
Oh my goodness, yes.
For some people, that's not terrible. It's like, boy, it doesn't cost anything to fill my tank up right now. But up here, like we've already had a person get laid off in our congregation, and lots more are worried about it. Mm-hmm. And so that's and then selfishly and honestly, one of the thoughts that I have to battle as a pastor is, okay, well, I just started doing this here. Mm-hmm. If people are getting laid off and the economy is really bad and no one is able to give, what's going to happen, right? Like, so my dependence on God has just had to grow a lot through this. And it's not only oil. We've had another company in town that is a manufacturing plant that's had to put lots of people on furlough. And so the economy here is really taking a hit, which I've had to watch a lot of YouTube to aid in creativity lately, to kind of help us figure out what it looks like to function in this. But personal takeaways, I've taken away that I'm an introvert for the most part. Amen. So there are plenty of things about this that I don't care.
Introvert party, yeah, buddy.
Like, yeah, there are lots of things that this causes that for me is like, I mean, I don't know, I can read now, whatever, but but I know other pastors and I know other people who are really extroverted, and this is like, you might as well put cuffs on them and put them in a dungeon and chain them to a wall, Yeah. So
for some of the people, that's the thing. So for me personally, like I said, not a whole lot's changed. So for me, it's just kind of like, okay, like I'll wear a mask and gloves. Like it's not a huge deal I mean, that's the only thing that's changed for me at work. That's it. But for other people that are like you said, that are so extroverted, or families that I know, for example, they've never homeschooled before. So all of that as far as, nothing changed for me. That's really a blessing. I mean, me and Christina have talked about that a lot. As far as I still have a job, I don't have to worry about it right now. Obviously sales are down, but that I have a little bit of a cushion there that it doesn't affect me anyway until like a certain point. So Not a huge deal. Dave Ramsey, for example, if you are listening to this and are not on Dave Ramsey or any sort of budgeting, I mean, some of you hate Dave Ramsey, it's fine, whatever. But budgeting, right? Like, if that didn't teach you that you need to do that up to this point, dear God, that should teach you that now, right? So, like, if my wife wasn't a mathematician expert on the budget style, like, we are not bazillionaires at all. But because, like, of all of that, of all the budgeting and planning, like, we're okay right now. But all of that to say, there's a lot of people that I know that, for example, they hadn't homeschooled before. They're living paycheck to paycheck, and now they're laid off. Like, personal takeaways for me aren't necessarily like personal at-home takeaways, more as like the, you know, seeing the position that a lot of other people are in and being able to maybe speak into that situation, or, you know, offer some words of encouragement or prayer, something like that. Because a lot of people are just like, like you said, in your town, they're super concerned about either being laid off, or most of the people around here, like, it was an immediate thing. So we have a lot of restaurants, things like that, service industry stuff. We have a hotel like right down the road, pretty big one. And all those people automatically were laid off. So it's one of those things where, like, that hit right away for those people. So for me, it's really been a takeaway of saying, hey, this is and we'll talk about this a little bit in the next episode about the church, but like maybe a blinders off situation where I can be like, oh, okay, so a lot of people are either in worse situations than I thought, or like it's been a really eye-opening situation to be able to say, wow, these people's trust has been in things that I would have never guessed it was in before, and now we get to talk about that a little bit. So like I said, luckily, or I don't know if luck has anything to do with it, but I'm blessed to be in a position that I'm in right now that, one, it doesn't change a lot, and two, because of, you know, the providence of God laying everything out, that I'm not in a stressful job, which I would have been if I would have, you know, if this would have happened 2 years ago, I would have been home and I would have been losing my hair and probably had a heart attack. But, you know, it's just, takeaway is really just saying, wow, look, one, what God has done in my life personally, and then how can I speak into other people's lives in light of that? Because literally, like, I can't overstress how nothing's changed for me. Like, hardly at all.
Yeah, I think I like what you mentioned about Ramsey, because, you know, one of the things that, and you know this, one of the things that he teaches is that whole kind of emergency fund. Not, you know, if you're unfamiliar with him, the first baby step, he calls it, is $1,000 in a savings account. But then, like, when you get toward the end of the whole thing, you're supposed to save up 3 to 6 months of your expenses in a savings account as a fully funded emergency fund. And I started thinking about, because we were actually doing financial peace in our church when this happened.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's kind of a regular thing that there's one of our elders is really a great finance guy. And so anyway, he leads it periodically. And one of the things that I immediately thought was, you know what, like, if both people and businesses operated by this, no one would economically care that this just happened.
Yeah.
I mean, you might be worried, like, oh crap, we're having to dig into this, you know. And
there's going to be financial ramifications, but it's not the shock right away.
Yeah, it's not like, oh my gosh, how are we getting milk?
Yeah.
You know,
because like you said, I mean, there's no, and we'll probably talk about this a little later in like the third episode, but like the idea that right away the government's trying to hand out money to people because, oh no, we're all gonna, like, we got to do something. Whereas there literally, I've seen it on people's like little forums that I'm a part of on Facebook, little pages, that people are like, yeah, man, I've been following Dave Ramsey, I'm good for 3 months. Like, I'm okay. Like, even if I don't go back to work, I'm good for 3 months. And other people, they're like, he's an idiot. And I'm like, I don't know, that guy's sitting over there, he's good for 3 months. I mean, you're not. But it's just a matter of,
if you were depending on that 1,200 or 2,400 or 34, depending on whatever you got, if you were depending on that to pay for the groceries in 2 weeks, then Dave Ramsey's not an idiot.
Yeah. Also, some of you guys out there that are like, man, I hate kids. Should have had 5 kids. You would have got extra money.
So, it's an investment.
Yeah, yes, they are. They are arrows in my quiver, is what they are. Also,
Right.
apparently, the government pays me money for them.
Yeah, it cost me a lot more than $3,400 this year. So,
Well, they're just looking at the next couple of weeks. They don't
yeah,
know.
you're really not making it back.
But anyway, that's my personal takeaways from it. I mean, it has been an extremely eye-opening lesson. Reminder, I guess. I don't know if I call it a lesson. A reminder for me of how I already knew people operated, but it's been brought to the forefront because now, like, so what I mean by people operated, like financially, how they operated, paycheck to paycheck, or operated paycheck to paycheck, like willingly. So there's people that obviously they do, like they're scratching along, but then there's other people that make plenty of money but just blow it all and don't save any, and they're living paycheck to paycheck. But that's
probably the vast majority too.
Yeah, that's a decision they're making. Two, what people worship, right? Like if you worship government or security, or you thought you controlled an iota of your own life, that's gone. And then just as far as how do people react to panic, right? So, I mean, automatically, whatever your foundation was for security, pulled out. I mean, that rug was pulled out quick from you. Yeah. And it really revealed very quickly, like, what do I trust in? Like,
yeah,
what do I trust in? So,
yeah, and that's why I say, like for me personally, this has been a test. Maybe it wasn't such a major thing that it's a big hidden thing that came to the forefront and reared its ugly head during this. Maybe a better way to describe it is it's certainly been a test of where I find my comfort.
Yeah.
And where I find my dependence, right? What am I actually depending on? Am I depending on our economy doing well and people tithing and this paycheck? Like, am I doing that? Because I'm going to, plenty of times throughout my time here, I'm going to be in the pulpit telling people, hey, don't depend on anything but God. Yeah. In some way, shape, or form. That's going to come out of my mouth multiple times. So am I doing that?
Also,
right? This has been a good test for that.
Yeah. No, exactly. Exactly. All right. Well, is there anything ending here you want to talk on the takeaway part of it, or you think we'll probably dive a little bit more into that in the next episodes?
I mean, I personally, probably the episode where we're going to talk about the church is going to be the thing that I'm going to fill up the most, because that's been a lot of my life lately, is trying to figure out what this is supposed to look like.
You're a new pastor. Also, pandemic. Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I think another thing for me personally that's a takeaway from this is not only who am I depending on or what am I depending on, but it's also where am I working out my like even stress management and things like that. This is I've essentially all the responsibilities I had. Now I can't do them face to face. One, so it's more work to do that. And then two, I've essentially become a pastor and a videographer, IT person, right? And video editing and doing all this stuff, and so it's been a lot more work to do church without being together. Because essentially the whole thing is you're trying to figure out how do we be together without being together. I mean, that's a square peg in a round hole kind of a thing. So
it doesn't work. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So, but I think my own personal kind of stress management and making sure that I'm terrible at this anyway before the pandemic, and I know this is a weakness, and I actually do accountability with some other elders and pastors because of it. But I'm really terrible at rest. Like, I'm just not good at that. It's not something that I just make sure that I go vacation or go camp or go whatever that is for you, right? And so this has put me in a position that, like, you either do this or go to crazy town, right? I mean, it's not an option. Like, I have to take some time every week and just make sure that I'm Sabbathing kind of, you know.
Yeah.
So
No, I came home the other day. That's a funny story. I came home and my father-in-law was just sitting in the driveway in a camping chair with his feet up on something. And I'm like, hey, what's up? He goes, I just had to get out of the house for a second. And like, he just stayed out there. He just stayed out there for like 30 minutes. He wasn't on his phone. He wasn't doing anything. Dude was just chilling, looking at the woods. Like, he just was like, I've got to get away from everyone. Because here's the funny, like with him, like he's always going. He just retired at the beginning of April. So like when this whole thing hit, like when they're like, you can't go anywhere now, he retired. And he's always doing something, like you said, like always. Like he's building something, he's fixing something, he's always doing something. And now he can't do any of that. So he just was sitting in a chair and I was like, that dude had to get out of the house or he was going to kill somebody. So
yeah. So yeah, for me, dependence on God alone, making sure that I rest. And I'm actually an introvert with occasional
extrovert.
An extrovert, which is occasional for sure.
Yeah. Good deal. Yeah, well, for me, I think, like you said, it's the same thing, depending on, I mean, obviously there's been this real, in the front, dependence on God, even though nothing's changed, it's been a dependence on God for what happens if I do get sick. Because I'm around, every stop, I'm a salesman, in case you guys are listening don't know. I'm not a pastor of a church. But every stop I go to, there has been a case like in that store as far as either people shopping or someone that's worked there. So I've been following the county that I service, well, the two counties I service. Hey, sorry about that. Might have the Rona.
Bro.
Sorry.
Put a mask on, bro.
But all the counties I service, I've had a case of it. So really, the biggest takeaway for me is trusting in God for my health, regardless if I get it or not. Because even if I do get it, sorry, the distracting little thing at the bottom. You're right. Even if I do get it, I probably won't, it won't be severe, but I'll have to, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I've already separated myself from my family. So that's one thing too, is just how do I interact with my family? Because I might have it. What if I do get it? Those sort of things. So that's been the big takeaway for me, trusting in God for my health during the whole time. Cause I don't have a clue. I can't self-isolate or, I have to go to work. So anyway, that's mine. I have no clue where our time's at. So we're going to end it here. We will talk to you guys next time.
All right.